up, guys? Early morning here, and a little bit of a road trip for a few days. I am actually heading up to Boogie's shop. If you don't know who Boogie is my painter. That's been doing work for me for over 20 years now, and he's still going hard at it. That is where Project Lemon Drop is, and he's also who painted the dech 005 car. So I'm gonna go up there and do a little bit of an apprenticeship. Never too old to learn some more, and although I've painted many cars over the years, it's just one of those things that I don't always feel 100% confident about. A lot of that has to do with I've never had my own booth, but I've managed to pull off some really nice jobs. I've also pulled off some really bad jobs that I've had to redo a couple times. But you know what? That's all part of the learning process. So what better way to learn more from a guy who's been painting for probably 40 plus years. So I was heading up to the shop now. It's about an hour and a half drive, and I'll be spending a couple days up there working on Lemon Drop. Alright guys, working away here at the shop, and Boogie's got me on some tasks, and definitely methodical process, one panel at a time. Got all little stone chips out in this area. There was key marks. There's key marks up there, and a couple little dents, nothing too crazy, but got everything taken care of. Whole hood's gonna get high build prime now, and the underside is going to look just as good as the top side, and that's all done. So making a little bit of headway, body part by body part. There's a little bit of a black guide coat on the top here, which will assist in the block sanding process. And now moving on to the doors. So they're pretty clean down here, thankfully. Not too much rust, but definitely going to want to get little areas like this all cleaned up. So I'll probably end up drilling this rivet off and taking off the door lock actuator, because that's the rivet that's holding that. It's already unplugged here and taped up, so I don't think it was even working. So we'll get that off and cleaned up. We'll get little areas like this all blasted and clean, and get everything prepped here so that we can get this thing ready for the Jaguar door handles. So I gotta do some test fitting and make sure that the glass is gonna clear the whole mechanism. So that'll be a big question mark that I need to determine, and get these speakers out. I'm actually surprised I didn't get those out sooner. And one other really important thing, you can see all this leftover undercoating here. This all needs to be chipped and taken away. Gonna grind these down. You can see how rusty things were on those door posts, so thankfully we got them all cleaned, welded up, and avoid rust in the future. So we can see here in between the door posts, this has all been cut out, new metal welded in, and body worked again, trying to make things look nice and smooth, even though you're really not going to see any of this, trying to make it look as good as possible. And gonna come in here, get this all sandblasted out. This will all get painted, probably painted up black or something like that. Alright guys, so just going through here and got most of the bottom side of the door cleaned up. I do want to get this blasted just to get any bit of that corrosion and surface rust out of there. And I managed to put some power with a battery charger to this glass and got it up and out of the way because I wanted to do some measurements. So for any of you guys that have been following along, I originally wanted to put these Jaguar F-type door handles in the car because I figure that flush look would look super cool, and you know, if I could get it wired up to the alarm where the handles pop out a little bit, then you go ahead and pull it to open it up. It'd be pretty cool, pretty sleek, pretty modern looking, but the reality is I'm doing some measurements down in here, and I don't think I'm going to have the clearance. This mechanism is about 2 inches deep. At any given point. I could even do some trimming here, which is where a cable typically goes for the mechanism, which I don't need that. But unfortunately, with the 2 inches worth of depth, I just don't think I'm going to have it in here. So might just have to shave the locks and keep the factory door handles. Alright guys, so amazingly enough, although this car has some rust in some pretty interesting places, all the external body panels are extremely clean. Now this car was undercoated, and that's the one thing about undercoating. There's a lot of places they get the undercoat in, you know, areas that would get affected by stuff you see, like bottom sides of the doors, you know, because they get all the spray in there. Quarter wells are good, the fenders are good, everything's pretty good, even the hood. But on the underside there was quite a few little spots on the underside that I had to correct and just blast out. So same thing here. Interestingly enough, on the feature car, unless this has been redone, there is actually no gravel guard or that textured coating that we normally see on the bottom side of Canadian cars. So this is actually nice and smooth. I've gone over it with 120 grit with the DA and just got rid of any stone chips, feathered everything out, and now going over it with 240. Now I'm going to do the rest of the door in 240. I might have to get, you can see all these key marks here, because this car was keyed all the way around. So I'm going to have to try and get all those out. We'll see if this needs to get slicked or not after. I'm hoping that we can just get it sanded, high built primed. It should be good enough. Body moldings, I like to keep, or door moldings rather, I like to keep these on if they're as straight and nice as these ones are. There's no point in trying to rip these guys off if they are straight and not lifting on the corners. If they've been on this long, they're going to be fine going forward. So I'm leaving these guys intact, and they're going to get painted on the car. And that's pretty much that. We're going to have to sort out and see what our door handle ordeal is and what we're going to do there. But keep at it and get this thing prepped out. Alright guys, so I got the door all sanded down here, got all the key marks sanded out. There's one deep spot right here, so feathered this out as much as we could to try and keep things nice and straight. You can see I also put a piece of tape down along this body line here. My pet peeve on Foxes when people run this body line down and start rounding all the corners of a Fox. So now I'm just going to go ahead, do all the edges and the areas that the DA couldn't hit with some 240 by hand, and we'll be pretty much there in terms of prep is concerned. We'll get the sandblaster out and just sandblast out these few little rusty spots, figure out what we're going to do with the door handle and lock situation here, and yeah, this guy will be good for primer and some block sanding, and probably some more primer and some more block sanding, and one door closer. Done a lot of cleaning and a lot of prep on these things. Again, all the time that's taking on this car is all in areas that you really don't even see. So trying to get these jams all cleaned up. You know, I love to have the insides of my doors nice and clean. You know, you wash the outside, you wash the inside almost. And anyway, so there was lots of surface rust on the bottom side of the door here. Amazingly enough, down in the seam sealer, not too bad. Surface rust has been a little bit of a pain in the ass. Been trying to, you know, sand it down and grind it off. And there's still too many little pits, so gonna go ahead, hit it with the sandblaster, make sure that we get rid of all of this little bit of rust. You can see down in here, down in the lip, it's really important that we get this rust blasted out of here, because this is just gonna keep rusting and swelling, and then eventually it's gonna make the outer edge here swell out. So we'll get this all cleaned up. Noisy in the shop, lots of stuff going on, but that means there's work happening. Alright guys, so moving along here, I wanted to do some inspecting of the floor pans, and I'm sure you guys can remember this car had quite a bit of rust issues and corrosion and whatnot. The car wasn't completely rotted, so you know, justifies me saving it. Now, obviously poking away here and chipping away at some of this insulation, sound deadening, whatever you want to call it. Right down here in the seam where the firewall meets the floor pan is probably the worst of it. And you know, as I peel further back here, things are looking pretty clean. Underneath you can see all the factory primer. And likewise in this corner there's a little bit, actually there's rust kind of all down along the edge here towards this rocker panel, so we'll see exactly how bad that is. I know it was worse on that side. You can see a nice hole down in that corner there. So yeah, really important that we get everything opened up and peeled back. Now one trick, if you guys want to remove this in totality and not kill yourselves with a chisel and a hammer like I've been doing, is dried ice. And if you use dried ice on here, the stuff kind of just like cracks and just comes up like nothing. So that is a trick if you guys have access to it, but otherwise there's going to be some cutting and some welding that needs to take place here. The material definitely came up a lot better on this side. Maybe the person was a little bit more lazy sticking it down back in the day, because it didn't seem to be, I guess, pressed down as much down in the indented areas here. Here you can actually see part of the pillar post where one of these door hinges was. Maybe actually it was on the driver's side. But yeah, you can see how rotten the metal gets in between where the door hinge is and the posts here. So cut all this out, sandblast it in, welded new metal, and still need to sandblast some of the backside in both areas here. We just want to make sure that we get rid of as much of this rust as possible. So there you go guys, let's check your door post areas. They love to rot out right here where your antenna passes through, so always look out for that. And it sucks when you got to do this type of work, but it is what it is. The good news is that when I saw these holes up here initially, things looked, you know, pretty bad, but now that I've got all of this matting off and there's so much nice original floor left underneath here, I'm feeling a little bit better knowing that, you know, a lot of this is just some isolated areas, and should be pretty straightforward to tackle. You know, we'll cut this section out and weld in new metal and get this all cleaned up. This seam right here is just absolutely notorious to break out, hold moisture, and it just rots in between the layers, and your floor pan starts hanging down. Long few days here over at Boogie's shop. It almost doesn't look like anything has got done, but in fact a lot has. Just finished taking the trunk lid off and grinding out, getting some of the surface rust areas done right here. Took the third brake light out, and the nuts and bolts that were seized on where the wing was. The lock cylinder area is ground down around because that's going to get shaved off and smooth. So got that ready to go. Got all the floors cleaned up so we know what needs to get cut and welded down here. Got our door posts all fixed up and cleaned up, so those are good to go. Side skirts have all been test fitted, and they're good. The passenger side had to extend it up just a little bit. And this is one thing about the dech kits. For whatever reason, the passenger side skirt right here, where it butts up against this molding, it usually kind of ends up being about a 1/4 inch down. So what I did is I built it up with a little bit of fiberglass, and it's as good as new. I did this on the white notch from my friend Lewis. If you guys are curious to know exactly how I did that, you guys can check out that video. So our body kit's ready, the hood is ready, the doors are pretty much ready. They're sitting waiting for some primer, and you know, we're getting there. Lots of time needs to get spent still, but I'm going to be back and forth, and Boogie's going to keep going at it with his guys. You see the doors here, everything's good. Got some seam sealer back down on the seams where ground off or chipped off most of the old seam sealer so we could get all the rust out. So these have all been sandblasted, etch primed, good to go. And just one last thing before this video concludes. Here is the proposed yellow, which is a Porsche saffron yellow. If you guys haven't seen this on my Instagram or on the YouTube community channel feed, I think this is the color I'm gonna go with. So a metallic yellow, something a little bit different. Porsche claims it's their most expensive color out there. I haven't priced it out yet. Boogie just sprayed out the panel. So we'll see if I end up going with this one or not. And it's been a long few days. Like I said, got some blisters on my fingers, but it's all been worth it. And as you can see here is Lincoln Continental convertible, giving me some motivation to get mine done once I get back down to Texas. Kind of like the baby blue. What do you guys think? Anyways, guys, that's going to wrap up this video. Honestly, like I said, I kind of feel like I didn't get a lot done, but at the same time, I did get a lot done. So thank you guys for following along, and there's gonna be lots to come on Lemon Drop. Want to get this car wrapped up before the end of the year, so fingers crossed it can happen. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for subscribing and all your support.